Chapter 1, Positively Unstoppable, Living Life at 90%. Y'all went and watched the video, right? It's on Venmo, Diamond Dallas page, Positively Unstoppable. Actually, it's called just Living Life at 90%. You must expect great things of yourself before you can do them. It's all in here. If you knew that your success was guaranteed, what would you do? Seriously, think about it. Or try it this way. What would you do if you knew that you couldn't fail? If you say I'd be thin, I'd have a better job, I'd have the most amazing love life, that's cool. But you're not answering the question. I'm not asking you what you'd be or what you'd have. I'm asking you what you'd do. Doing means taking action. Doing means putting in the work. What is the work? For starters, answer the question. If you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do? Got something? Good. Now write it down. This is vitally important. Don't just think it. Ink it. Write it down. You didn't bring a pen? You didn't know there'd be a test? My friend, this whole thing is a test. This book, your life, it's all work. It's a constant series of challenges that will force you either to change or stay the same. Like every important test, this one is pass-fail. Either you grow, adapt, and evolve, or you stagnate, wither, and wake up tomorrow the same person you were when you thought it was important to read this book because you wanted to change your life. Not to judge, but to me that last option sounds really depressing. Obtaining your wildest dream, from my experience, requires working harder than you've ever worked before. So, even though I'm telling you to assume that whatever you dream up... Even though I'm telling you to assume that whatever you dream up as your ultimate goal is possible, without a doubt, don't expect it to happen by sitting on the couch thinking about it. The problem most people have is they don't believe enough in what they really want, so they don't do the work required to get it. Not willing to do the work? Maybe buy one of those books about how all you have to do is just imagine good things often enough and unicorns will start pooping rainbow Ferraris on your lawn. But take a second before you do anything silly and try imagining something right here and right now. The first step toward owning it is believing that you can do anything. Because before you can honestly define what you want, you've got to believe in yourself. If you can't take it that far just yet, try simply telling yourself, okay, it's not going to hurt me not to be completely cynical for a second. You can play the devil's advocate all you like, because I love coming across someone who doesn't believe they can do something, and I ask myself, how do I convince this person? See, that's the difference between you and me right now. I know you can do this. The more you hear something, the more likely you are to start making it your own, because repetition is the mother of learning. So understand that there are some things I'm going to tell you again and again, and then probably a couple more times. And he does too. If you say you can't, imagine for a moment that you can. Maybe you don't believe in yourself. Maybe you're in a situation where you think your life can't change. There's no shame in that. I've never known anyone who hasn't been there. So if that's where you're at, take this step and suspend your disbelief. For just one moment, allow yourself to believe that you can accomplish anything if you're willing to do the work. Yeah, there's going to be setbacks. Yeah, the work will be hard. But just for now, take a breath and pretend you can do it. There are going to be voices in your head saying that you can't, and we'll deal with them in a minute. But right now, give yourself a break. Pretend you can do this. It won't hurt. It's doing whatever you've been doing that hurts. Otherwise, what brought you here? So tell me, what would you do? What do you want? These are the things that define you. Identify them and write them down. Right about now, you might be getting pissed off at me because I'm pushing you. You might be saying, whatever, you're Diamond Dallas Page, it's easy for you. Please. All I can promise is that I won't bullshit you. So please do me the respect of not bullshitting me. My whole life I've been very successful at identifying and achieving what I want out of life. It's not because I'm blessed, it's because I've always been dead serious about putting in the work required. It's not magic, it's work. It's never easy, it never has been, and I never expect it to be, even now. My mom was just 17 when she had me, and by the time she was 19, she'd already been married, divorced, and had 3 kids. When my parents split up, my brother and sister went to live with her. But it wasn't long before she had to leave them with my grandmother. But it wasn't long before she had to leave them with my grandmother in Point Pleasant, New Jersey, because she needed to move north to Livingston, New Jersey, to try to make more money to support them. Me, I went to live with my dad when I was 3. Why? Let's just say mini DDP had too much energy. There was no way my grandmother could have handled my infant sister, my 1-year-old brother, and a wild man. The only problem was my dad was a wild man too. This isn't a tearjerker. My dad was a fun drunk, and every night after work he'd hit the bar till closing time. I never stayed in one place too long. I spent time living with my uncles, my aunts, my stepmom at the time, her uncle. I bounced around like a pinball. Back then, my dad couldn't even spell the word father, let alone be one. So on my 8th birthday, my dad finally brought me to join my brother and sister at my grandmother's place. It killed my dad to have to give me up that day, but he knew I needed some family structure. That was the last time I would see or even talk to him when he was sober for the next 10 years. Now I'm sure there are plenty of therapists who will tell you how much of an upbringing like that can damage a kid. And I'm not saying they're wrong. But I've always felt kind of lucky because being brought up this way helped me to learn from a very early age that life is 10% about what happens to you and 90% about how you react to it. 10% about what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. I didn't have the words for it at the time. Hell, I couldn't even read or write yet. But what I did have was a gut instinct that drove me to be flexible in new circumstances. I just felt this need to be adaptable, to improvise, when things felt weird, scary, or just different. Rolling from town to town, family to family, something different was always going on. Whenever I was suddenly thrown in with a group of new people, I didn't know how long I'd be living where I was. Whenever I was suddenly thrown in with a new group of people and I didn't know how long I'd be living where I was living, there were moments when I felt abandoned and left out. But no matter how much it hurt, I never focused on it for long. For me, the most important thing was knowing that there was always going to be new people I'd yet to meet and know. I became an expert at fitting in. It was like a survival instinct, because if you weren't adaptable, you sat in the corner. No one puts DDP in the corner. From there, though I didn't know it at the time, I was learning the first principle for owning it. For me, personally owning my life starts with not listening to the people around me when they say things that couldn't stop me from believing in myself. When people bring you down with what I call emotional gravity. For instance, when I was at my grandmother's house, that side of the family would constantly talk shit about my father. And whenever I went to stay with my father's family, they would talk shit about my mother. I'm like every kid. I'm 9, 10, 11, and I realize there's something wrong here. There's my parents, and here are all these people judging them. I learned there's his story and there's her story, and then there's what really happened. Negativity can have a pretty powerful effect if you allow it to. He's worthless. She's a bum. To me, my father was a god at the time. And my mom, I didn't get to see her much, but I really loved her, you know? I wasn't going to judge her. As a little kid, hearing both sides of the family talk shit about my mom and dad, I knew I had to figure out how to cope. And the coping mechanism was no secret potion. I simply realized that I would have to learn to shrug off what everyone was saying and not get pulled into that shit. That was the beginning of my self-parenting. Of course, it bummed me out to hear their negativity. But the more I noticed it pulling me down, the more I paid attention to when that dragging sensation would come over me, and the more I learned to control it. Eventually, it became nonsense, background noise to me. He's garbage, she never did this, he never had that, blah, blah, blah. By the time I was 10, I knew I could take anything from those people. I could take anything of those people were saying and shove it right back in their faces. But I didn't. I didn't need to. I understood. I got it. When people were putting someone else down, they were really talking about themselves because they felt like shit. Really, it had nothing to do with anyone but themselves. For a little kid, that kind of knowledge was a powerful tool. And even though most people figure it out by the time they've grown up, they don't often figure out how to use it. The ones who learn to ignore or eliminate other people's negative energy have the potential to be way more successful. Don't let it drag you down. A lot of people need a pat on the back for reassurance. They don't make it as far as the people who can take criticism or be told they'll never make it. The people on top, the exceptional ones, are the people who hear, "You can't do this," and they'll tell that voice to fuck off, especially when that voice is their own. So many people think of themselves as prisoners of their situation. That's the mindset of failure. They've been programmed to be walking victims. The first key to breaking free of that mindset is to change the story that you tell yourself. You have to change the story that you tell yourself. I want you to really hear that, so I'm going to say it again. Change the story that you tell yourself. Whatever's happened to you in the past, whatever anyone's done to you, your life belongs to you now. Your mind is all your own, so own it. Most people don't. Most people never will. Whether it's weight, the job, the husband, the wife, even a basic belief in oneself, most people start with "I can't." And they stop there. "Yeah, I don't know if I can do that. I don't believe I can get in shape. I don't think I can get that job." The easiest thing in the world is "I can't." Physically, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, we're all ready to default back to lazy. There's nothing to be afraid of when you're being lazy, being cheap with yourself, because you're already living in fear. It's cool though. Keep doing what you've been doing and you'll never be in danger of creating anything new that will challenge and change you. Nothing will happen at all. That'll be fucking amazing, right? Then at last you try. I had no idea I could accomplish so much of what I've done in my life because I'd never done any of it before. But I believed. Even with no hard evidence, I believed. I was often a case of fake it till you make it. There's nothing wrong with that. It sure as hell beats sit still until you fail again. Suspending your disbelief, faking it till you make it, that's not lying to yourself. Lying to yourself is doing the same unpredictable thing over and over and over again, expecting a different outcome. Lying to yourself is saying "I can't." How do you know you can't? Really, how do you know you can't? You're the one telling yourself you can't. And when you have been right before, hell, have you ever really tried? Try saying "I can't" to everything just for a day to see how you feel. This is what I've done for most of my life, and trust me, it works. That didn't come out right. We're going to go back and read that again. Try saying "I can" to everything, just for one day, and see how you feel. This is what I've done for most of my life, and trust me, it works. It's way better to be wrong once in a while saying "I can" than being right all the time saying "I can't." I remember when I was in Iraq in 2003 to see the troops. I was at an FOB, Field Operations Base. That was way out on the outer perimeter, and the major in charge said to me, "DDP, you can drive a tank?" My reply, "Yes, sir, I can drive a tank." Guess what I was doing 10 minutes later? Driving that tank like a fucking madman. What a hell of an experience. People can say whatever they want about professional wrestling, but like I said, the one thing that always stands true is that you can't fake gravity. We all deal with gravity every day. Emotional gravity, that is. You know what I mean. When someone really wants to pull you down, the person often succeeds, right? The truth is, it's never really what the person says that pulls you down. It's how you let what that person says affect you that does. Because rarely can anyone create more emotional self-doubt and feelings of failure in your life than you can for yourself. If you've never really thought about it that way, then you don't know how to fix it. It's time to stop allowing emotional gravity to control your actions. The fact is, people set themselves up to fail before they even begin. It comes down to that inner dialogue, that voice. Hell, we've seen it in cartoons. The angel on one shoulder, the devil on the other. Years ago, I was working with the singer Carney Wilson when she wanted to get her weight down. This is a woman who sold 12 million albums with Wilson Phillips. But at the time, you would never know it from spending time with her. She never talked about her 3 number one singles or her 6 top 20 hits. What she would say over and over, like her own dead-end mantra, was, "Oh God, I'm the shits, and I'm the queen of the excuses." Like she had already written her own story of who she was. But so many people do that, and you need to understand where that comes from. I would say to Carney, stop saying that shit about yourself. Give yourself a positive mantra. When it finally clicked with her, things started to change. Today, she attacks most everything with a positive attitude. People naturally fall back on whatever's comfortable for them. The fucked up thing is that for so many people, it's the self-doubt, the self-hatred they learned when they were kids, and had no control over their lives. That is their comfort zone. Once they become adults, it can seem impossible for some to accept that for the better or for worse. They are now in charge of their lives. It's far easier to fall back on it. I can't. And a lot of people do so as a messed up act of defiance. They actually get off on their own negativity. WTF. Whether they're consciously aware of it or not, some people use their cynicism as a form of rebellion. Now, rebellion's great when you're a kid struggling against your parents, teachers, or bullies because you're just fighting to gain a foothold in the world. But when you're a grown man or woman and you're still saying no to everything around you, it's not likely that you're rebelling against a major injustice. Instead, you're probably just rebelling against yourself. I've seen that self-destructive attitude a million times. I just can't do it. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I don't have this. I don't have that. If you look at what people do have the time for, it's the things they think they must have. And if the thing they think they must have is a box of chocolate cupcakes, they're gonna find the time to eat them. They say you should treat others the way that you want to be treated. But I say treat yourself the way that you want to be treated. So often I meet someone and I think, you treat yourself like shit. You put garbage in your body, talk badly about yourself, and you have no real self-image. I don't want you to treat me like that, and you don't have to live this way. So many people think they're pieces of shit. I don't. I know who I am, and I respect myself and the people around me. That's how I want you to treat me. Like I said, that's also how you should treat yourself. So what's it going to take for you to get there? Practice. The hardest cases, the one who will fight you for every inch when you try to coax them out of their safe little bubble of cynicism, are totally aware of what they're doing. It's not that they don't care about themselves, it's that, just like a sullen teenager, they have convinced themselves that negativity is cool and that everything else is bullshit. All that cynicism, all that darkness, who are they trying to impress? Still, it's up to them to decide if they want to change. Are you one of those people? I was sure as hell rebellious when I was in my early 20s, but I was rarely negative. The way I raised myself, I always managed to have a positive outlook on life. Even still, I suffered from dyslexia and could hardly read. I wasn't yet sure what I wanted from life, and I had this nagging suspicion that something crucial was missing. As good as I felt about myself, I knew I wanted to somehow be better, to be more than I was. Still, I couldn't put it into words. I didn't have a teacher or any real role models in my life. Then one day I saw a poster with a quote on it by the radio preacher Chuck Swindoll. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. That was a real revelation for me. I started to really think about it then. Why couldn't I just live life at 90%? Almost everything that happens in life is a result of our own decisions. And more important, I thought about how we have total control over those decisions. Good or bad, it's all in our minds. The 6 inches between your ears is the most expensive piece of real estate on the planet. So that's how all this started for me. In our personal lives and our professional lives, we're constantly confronted by one adversary. So that's how all this started for me. In our personal lives and our professional lives, we're constantly confronted by adversity. See, they split it up in half on the page. That's why I'm having a hard time reading. We're constantly confronted by one adversity after another, many of which we have no control over. But what we do have total control over, if we take control, is the way we react to that adversity, how we adapt, how we take action. Living life at 90% means taking control of every aspect of your life that you can control. How you react, how you adapt, and how you take action. You, and only you, get to control the way you react to all the shit life dumps in your lap. And again, that's the trick, taking action. It's not just going to happen. You have to put the work in. By now you should know what happens if you don't put the work in. Exactly. Nothing happens. If there's any magic to any of this, here it is. You can change right now. Right now, it's in your mind. You can change your mindset right this second. I know it doesn't seem easy if you've never tried it, but it really is. And if you've never tried it, how do you know it won't work? I'm telling you it will, because I've seen it happen more times than I can count. It happened. A couple of years ago, right here, where I was writing, my wife Brenda and I were having the biggest debate. I could tell she was really angry, and I suddenly said, "You can change your mindset right now." It was right when we first got together, so it caught her off guard. Though she's a master of it by now. "You can change your mindset about this shit," I said. She was mad at something other than me, but I still let myself get pulled into it. So I said, "Change your mindset." "That's just crazy," she told me. "Paige, no one can just do that." I said, "Imagine Publishers Clearinghouse knocks on the door right now and they've got a $250,000 check for you. You'll go from being mad as fuck to the happiest woman alive. You wouldn't even remember what you were mad about." Obviously, there was no big fat check in hand, so I added, "What will this disagreement mean to you 3 days from now? 3 months from now? You won't even remember it." Brenda took a breath and after a minute just said, "Wow, all right, I get it." She may not have believed me at first, but she took a chance on her faith that I might know what I'm doing. That's all I'm asking for you, too. So yes, you're always going to face adversity. Shit will always be thrown your way. It's how you react and adapt and take action that counts. That's everything. Are you going to run? Are you going to retreat into those same dead-end patterns that have worked so well for all of your life? Or will you fight? Whether or not you're worth fighting for is a decision you've got to make for yourself. It's the most important decision you'll ever make in a lot of ways. It'll also be the last. And you can make that decision right now. A lot of people never get there. The second something goes wrong, it's always, "You see, I never should have done this." Right away, they're hearing the voices, everyone who tried to shame them out of reaching for their dreams. "Don't waste your time. Get a real job." "Yeah, well, I told you, you should never have done that." And then they add their own voice to that chorus of negativity. All I'm telling you is that you don't have to do it. Hold on, I gotta put this up. These are reading glasses, so I can't see what I'm showing you. There you go. All right. This is Christina Russell. I'm going to read what it says right here, but she's one of the success stories. She actually does one of my favorite workouts, the core cracker. Let me read what it says. DDPY success story, Christina Russell. Christina Russell is one of our certified trainers and nutritionists at DDPY. People love her. She's fit, funny, incredibly engaging, and she has a positive energy that's totally infectious. But when she first encountered DDPY in 2013, it was another story. She had recently suffered a miscarriage with her second child and was battling severe depression, and she had gained 60 pounds. Here's her story. Christina. It was something that I don't think anyone can really prepare you for. Needless to say, I fell into a really deep state of depression. I don't even know how to describe it. I was miserable, constantly questioning myself. What did I do? Did I cause this? Was it my fault? I had normal weight gain during the pregnancy. As soon as the depression hit, I just blew past that. On top of the weight gain, which immediately caused body image problems, something I struggle with even today, I had broken out in eczema all over my body. The stress and everything was just compounding. The weight gain and the eczema and not feeling good about the way I looked and my family being really sucked up into all of my depression was just too much to handle. And when you're in that spot, you just don't care for a long time. It really took something my 2-year-old son Max did to make me realize that I needed to start caring again. One day he just came up and laid his tiny hand on my forearm. He was like, "Mom, you smile." I just lost it. All the sadness and hurt I was feeling was spilling over onto this little tiny person and onto my husband. I knew that I had to do something. I knew that I had to change for my son. I was more worried for him than I was for me. We tried different things at first. I was getting active. I was going to the gym, working out at home, but it wasn't really doing much for me. I was kind of going through the motions. When my husband showed me a DDPY video on YouTube, it was about this disabled veteran who completely transformed his life in less than a year. If he could do it, I felt I surely could too. That's Arthur's video. That's an impressive video. All the videos are impressive. I wasn't sure at the time how this program would help me mentally, but I ordered the DDPY DVDs and went for it. I saw immediate results as far as weight loss. Eventually, I started a blog for accountability and started eating better. Oddly enough, fairly soon after starting the program, I noticed that my mental clarity had changed. See, I had really gotten to the point where I was talking very negatively to myself all the time. I was saying horrible things, telling myself that was stupid, you look ridiculous. There were all these very negative things that I was saying in my head, and on top of that stuff was the stuff that I was saying out loud, the stuff that my husband was catching. He heard me beating myself up, always. I can't believe I did that. That's so stupid. Just negative talk. So that day to day, when you're in that downward spiral of depression, you don't really notice it. But once somebody pointed it out to me, I was like, oh my God, I'm talking to myself like this all the time. Not only out loud, but in my head too. Writing things down, don't think it, ink it, was pivotal for me at the time. I had a counselor who pointed out how negative I was. During one session, she counted. She said, you said 72 negative things today. That doesn't even count what you said to yourself. It was mind-blowing to me. I was like, oh shit, I need to change something now or else I'm not going to end up in a good place. I got to a point where I was so negative, I would write little sticky notes and would put them all over the house. It would just say, smile, you're worth it. You look great today. Something to flip my mindset if I was walking through the house and kind of feeling down on myself or beating myself up. I read that and instantly I'd be like, snap out of it. You're good. You have your health. You have your family. There's so many good things. It just becomes a thing. The more I paid attention to the fact that I was telling myself these negative things, the more I started to notice that I wasn't doing it as much. I noticed that I was happier when I was around my family and that my son was happier too. It was cause and effect. He was really just reacting to me. I think once you have that awareness, you can't help but want to change. We all have that feeling, that survival instinct. Of course, you want to do whatever you can to keep going and to push through. The positive thinking, though, it's kind of catching. It's a good thing, though. It's a good thing to catch. You just have to work on it every single day. It was pretty life-changing for me. It was more than the weight loss and my skin clearing up. It wasn't in that black hole. I wasn't in that black hole that I had pulled myself down to anymore. I still think about that time. I still get teary-eyed and I still understand the emotions I once felt. But I don't want to allow them to consume me. The more you do it, like Dallas says, repetition is the mother of learning. The more positive you're going to be, you just have to keep practicing. Everything takes practice. For me, I had to practice being happy. I still practice it. It doesn't take as much work as it used to, but I still have to practice. I hope that everything that I'm doing will be passed on to my kids. That's the ultimate goal. Like anyone who has suffered through depression, I still have moments that are challenging. I still have moments where I question stuff, but I'm able to recognize them now. I'm able to push forward and change my outlook. Setbacks, self-doubt, emotional gravity, the 10%, they're always going to call on you. No one gets a free pass. No one keeps that door locked. To this day, I am not immune, not even close. Just like anyone else, I have mornings when I just don't want to drag See, that was me talking negative, because that's what I call myself. I need to stop that. All right. No one keeps that door locked. To this day, I'm not immune, not even close. Just like anyone else, I have mornings when I just don't want to drag my ass out of bed. But what I have learned, and what Christina is learning, is how to reprogram myself. Sadness and darkness are going to happen. No one can eliminate that from their lives, and sometimes you just need to go there. But you don't need to stay there. You have to learn to tell yourself, I want to get the fuck out now. I don't want to feel like this. That's how you start living life at 90%. It's all about creating a different state of mind. Not now, not later. Now. Again, understand that things will happen to you that you can't control, but you have control over your life. You may not believe that yet, but you have control over the outcomes of your life. More than you think you do. You can take control and not allow those events to impact you, who you think you are, and more importantly, you can take control and not allow those events to impact who you think you are, and more than anything, who you know you can become. Then you can become who you want to be. Your whole overriding objective is to get through this book. These exercises saying, I believe that I can do these things, and then other things, and then anything. Some people say to me, how hard? How often do I have to do the workouts? I tell them never. What? What do you mean? If you're going to do it, I say you're going to do it. But how much do I have to do? Well, what do you want? What do you want that's important? Write it down. If you shoot for the stars, you might end up to the left or to the right, or maybe somewhere underneath them. But if you work your ass off, you will find some level of success. It's way better to do that than to shoot for the curb and hit it. You're the only one here that's in your body. You're the only one who's got to live with it. So why not take a chance on you? Do you deserve it? Just say yes. And that's the end of chapter 1. So, over the past couple of years doing DDPY, I think I must have 5 or 6 notebooks that I write in. I ink everything. Everything. Whether I'm doing this, what I want to put down on YouTube, I ink everything. Ink it. Don't think it. Alright, so tomorrow I'll show you my gratitude books. I do gratitude in my books. That's how I change my mindset. I fill out a day, take it in the morning, I get up, and I just start writing thank you. Thank you for this house. Thank you for the day. Thank you for everything. Tomorrow, failure is not an option. Apologize if I missed a day. I had a busy day today, and I had to run errands, so I wasn't available until tonight. It's a little bit past midnight doing this, so I'll put it up tomorrow, and then I'll go ahead and I will read chapter 2. Failure is not an option. See you there tomorrow. Again, if you haven't got the chance to watch DDPY, our Diamond Dallas Pages, Living Life at 90%, go watch it. It's a great watch. Also, go watch some of the success stories. Watch Christina's and watch Arthur's. But don't stop there. There's story after story after story.